Hello, everyone. This is C.L. Cannon of Fiction Atlas Author Services, bringing you another Feel Good Friday author interview. Every week, I strive to bring you inspiring tales about the author journey. Today, I'm here with middle grade thriller author James R. Hannibal. James, thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. We're happy to have you with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your book?
Okay, I'm James R. Hannibal, and my background is in military. I was a stealth bomber pilot, worked with a lot of classified stuff, and so when I got my start writing, I was writing in covert ops fiction with the Nick Barron series, Shadowmaker, Shadowcatcher, and Wraith. But I had this idea for a children's story set in London that was sort of sparked by the Lost Property Office there on Baker Street. It's just a few doors down from 221B, the famous address of Sherlock Holmes. And the Lost Property Office is really the lost and found for all of London. And in the windows there, it has these wonderful items that are from history, things that were left on tube trains and carriages for the last 80 or 100 years. You have a top hat. You have an iron that's really iron. Looks like it came off the set of Downton Abbey. And so I thought this place so close to Sherlock Holmes's address must be the secret headquarters for a secret society of detectives. And so then the story of Jack Buckles began to grow. And so Jack is an American boy from Colorado, but he goes to London looking for his missing father. And due to some shenanigans by his little sister, ends up in the Lost Property Office, and there he discovers that he is part of this secret society. And so he has to navigate this world of the Trackers and the Ministry of Dragons and the Ministry of Secrets in order to find this powerful artifact that created the Great Fire of London and stop a mad clockmaker from recreating the Inferno and killing millions.
Wow, that is an interesting story. I've never even heard of that, and that sounds like an amazing premise for a book. I think I really need to check that out, even if it is middle grade. I think that's something that.
Oh yeah, it's and I think Booklist said it was Booklist or Library Journal. One of those said it was sort of Harry Potter meets Sherlock Holmes meets Doctor Who, and so it's ages 8 to 80. It's for all ages, and that's why I think Columbia Pictures has optioned it for film.
Oh, congratulations!
Oh, thanks. Thank you very much.
Can you tell me what sparked your love of writing and how old you were when you wrote your first story?
Oh, dear. The first time I attempted to write down my story, I was 4, but didn't get very far. Got more distracted by the fun of having a typewriter to play with, I think. But I've always had stories in my head ready to get out. And in junior high and high school, I did that through poetry. So I didn't understand story structure the way that I do now. And so I would have ideas that I wanted to get out, but I didn't have a good structure with which to get them out. And that's why when I go to schools these days, and I talk to elementary schools, I talk to them about that whole idea of what is beginning, middle, and end, and what are the pieces that you need to fill in those blanks with. But I didn't have that, and so I found my structure in lyrical poems, and so I wrote funny lyrical poems, and I think the first one that was ever published was one about, and I'm talking like in an elementary school or a middle school newspaper, was one about a rabbit who takes charge of the forest, and so on and so on.
That's awesome. Can you tell us what tools that you use while you're writing? Do you have any?
I walk. I get a lot of my ideas through walking. I also, obviously, I'm an airline pilot in my other job now that I'm out of the Air Force, and that affords me some opportunities to be in some wonderful cities with a lot of history, especially London. And so I walk, and that generates ideas. And then I'll go find a secluded spot, some forest to walk in, and I'll make notes on my phone and dictate. Sometimes I'll dictate as detailed as full chapters with the dialogue and everything, and all the commas, periods, and quotation marks. But I get everything down through dictation while I'm moving, while I'm out there in the world. And then I come back to my computer, and I work in Scrivener, because Scrivener allows me to move things around, put note cards, which is really great when you're using structured writing, and then I write my chapters that way.
That sounds a lot similar to what I do, because I also do the dictating into my phone, because a lot of times I'll have ideas when I'm in the car, or or chasing the kids or something. So it's a great tool to use.
Absolutely, yes.
What made you choose to do a middle grade thriller for your book?
Well, when I was writing a mystery adventure in London, for me, that really brings out the kid in me. And so rather than writing in the adult genre where I was talking about covert ops and a little bit more violence, since I was going to be writing this mystery fantasy, I wanted to write in that age group. And not too long after the idea came, I began working with middle graders, doing a boys book club and reading some classics like Endurance and My Side of the Mountain and things like that. And so I really got to a better understanding of how those boys think. And of course, I have a middle grader boy of my own, and so it seems like a natural flow. Also, what's in the book that I connect with, or something that I poured into that book, was synesthesia. I am a synesthete, which means that my senses intersect, and I'm probably about a 1 in 100,000 synesthete because all 5 of my senses intersect. The most common form is chromesthesia, where you see sounds as color. I see and feel sounds. I see and feel smells. I hear flashes of light and movement. And in the meantime, in between getting the story idea and writing the book, I was working in the military in drone operations. And in those operations, mostly what you have is a screen in front of you. You rarely have audio from the places that you're looking at. But because I can hear movement, I was using my synesthesia to catch bad guys. And so I thought, if I'm going to recreate something based on the idea of Sherlock Holmes and that hyper observant detective, why not use my own experience? And so I poured that into Jack, who, like me as a child, didn't understand what synesthesia was. I didn't, and he doesn't. And so he kind of feels the world closing in on him. And then through the story learns that this thing that he feels like is a disability can be almost a superpower that he can use to help people.
I love that you have incorporated something like that. I know a lot of people who have taken not just disabilities, but just special things about them that are unique to them and put them into characters and, developed them that way. And I think it's a great way to get, more awareness about things like that out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I hope that through the Lost Property Office, more teachers and librarians will get a better understanding of synesthesia, because these kids don't know that they have it. It's very difficult to diagnose. Mm-hmm. But once they do understand that they have it, it can stop being a hindrance, and it can be something that they can use to capitalize, because most synesthetes see numbers and letters as specific colors. And so it can help with memorization. It can help with math. It can also be a problem if you don't know how to take advantage of it. So I hope that this gets the word out, and some of these kids are going to be misdiagnosed as on the autistic spectrum or ADHD, because it makes it very difficult to focus when you can actually see the bird chirping in the window and making pink and yellow spikes in your vision. And so, yes, I do hope that this gets the word out and helps kids learn about their synesthesia. I didn't understand my synesthesia until I was in my 30s. It took me that long because nobody knew. There was nobody there to tell me, this is what's happening for you. This is why you see the world differently from everyone else.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of funny, because the next question I had for you was, have you ever used a personal real-life event or experience in your writing? And obviously you have. Is there anything else that you've actually used like that?
My background is in covert ops and stealth operations, and so obviously I took that and put it into my covert ops novels that I wrote for grown-ups. And of course, I can't use any real experiences because that would be a violation of my non-disclosures, and all of those books had to go through different program security offices before they could be published. Mm-hmm. But yes, I do really put my own experiences with synesthesia into the book, especially in how it makes Jack feel. When I was his age, I shrank away from the world into books. These days, it's more likely going to be a smartphone or a video game for kids, and so that's sort of what Jack does. And I actually found my editors going, "You have to dial this back," because I would get loose with, since I was writing in my own viewpoint as far as how synesthesia affects how I see the world. I got a little far afield from what the normal reader sees, how the normal reader sees the world, and so my editors at Simon and Schuster and my wife would draw me back in the narrative there.
Right. Well, what advice would you give to other new authors who may be struggling to achieve their dreams?
The best thing that you can do is go and find writers' conferences. If you can find a way to get the time and the money to go to places like Thriller Fest, if you're writing in the mystery thriller genre, or BoucherCon, which is the mystery World Mystery Convention, or Killer Nashville. Any one of those conferences, and I'm listing those because those are my genre and those are the ones that I know, but there are writers' conferences and sort of professional conferences for every genre. And go to those places, meet other writers, talk to them. And one of the most wonderful things about these conferences is they have breakout sessions where you're learning from agents, editors, and authors in your genre. You're learning how they do a story, how they do structure, how they develop characters, how they develop villains. And so learning from those authors is so much more in depth. You get so much deeper than just reading a book on writing. And so I highly, highly recommend going out and meeting those people and learning from them if you really, really want to improve your writing.
I absolutely agree with that. What messages do you hope that your book gets across to readers?
Well, even though I don't ever actually say the word synesthesia in the book, it's on the inside cover flap because we call Jack a tracker. So I really do want this book, especially for teachers and librarians, to get the word out about synesthesia. Something else that's super important to me for the Lost Property Office is the love of family. So often in middle grade and young adult literature these days, we isolate the hero through family relationships. And it's important to isolate your hero in the beginning of a book. The hero has to solve the problem on his or her own. However, we've sort of gotten into this rut of isolating our hero by making the hero an orphan. And the parents, either the parents die, or the parents are mean, or the step parents are mean and abusive. And so we have very sometimes violent, sometimes hateful family relationships in a lot of books that are meant for the hands of children. Right. I disagree with that. That's not how I want to do my writing. And so what I put into the Lost Property Office are loving family relationships. It was a big challenge to isolate Jack from both his sister and his mom and his dad without creating sort of harmful relationships. There's tension in the family, especially because dad is missing. But we are never in doubt about how much the family loves one another, and we bring that love back together in the end. And so that's super, super important to me in the Lost Property Office.
I love that. I think that's very refreshing. Like you said, there's too many cases nowadays where they're isolated, they're alone, they're orphans, they're single parent families and things like that. I mean, there's a bunch of that going on, and I think that's great to instill the love of family into your book.
Absolutely. And, families look different. Okay. We talk about mirrors and windows in writing. Children need to see themselves through the book. They also need to see others, see how, and so we do that with various methods of diversity and other things. And it's important to see other types of families, single parent families, adopted families, families where children have a mother and a stepfather. But we don't have to make those non-nuclear or non-traditional family units so mean as we see in today's literature. You can have, I know many parents who are step parents. I know many parents who are adopted parents, and they love their children, and they would never do the things to them that we see happening in today's children's literature. So I wanted to change that.
I think that's a really great, really noble thing to do, actually.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us, James.
I really appreciate the opportunity to do the interview with you. Thank you so much.
And thank you. I'm going to leave links to all of James's social media and websites in the description, as well as a link to buy his book, The Lost Property Office. Please check those out. Now, if you or someone you know would like to request a Feel Good Friday interview, please send an email to info@fiction-atlas.com with the subject line Feel Good Friday. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next Friday with more inspiring author stories.